Welcome to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo. So, the film that I will be discussing today is The Dressmaker. The Dressmaker is a 2015 Australian comedy drama film that's based on the 2000 novel of the same name by Rosalie Ham. It is directed and co-written by Jocelyn Moorhouse, who's known for films such as Proof and Unconditional Love. It is co-written by P.J. Hogan, who's known for Muriel's Wedding. The film stars Kate Winslet, Liam Hemsworth, and Hugo Weaving. Here is the synopsis. Accused of murder when she was a child, a dressmaker, played by Kate Winslet, returns to her small Australian town to seek revenge on the locals who did her wrong. So the film premiered at the Toronto Film Festival on September 14th, 2015. It was released in limited North American theaters on September 23rd, 2015, and later released on October 30th, 2015 in Australia. It had a production budget of $11.9 million. In terms of box office, it made over $24.3 million worldwide. It opened at number 28 domestically with $185,000, $165. It was beaten by films including The Magnificent Seven remake, Storks, and Sully. In regards to critical reception, it has a 3.4 rating on Letterboxd. It won 5 Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Awards, including Best Lead Actress for Kate Winslet. Now, at the time of this recording, it is available to stream on Hollywood Suite, on Tubi, and it is available on demand, so check your local provider. All right, let's get into first discoveries. So, I believe when this movie was premiering at TIFF, I heard about it through that, and when I saw the synopsis, and I think I later saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, this looks intriguing. I'll check it out. I never eventually did at the time, but then once I was looking for films about fashion to cover for this podcast, I figured, why not? Let's check out this movie. And watching it, I find that there's aspects of it to enjoy. It tries to be ambitious at times, but it doesn't fully land for me. But yeah, I would say it's quite entertaining with the movie overall. So let's get into the highlights. So, I mean, we need to talk about the clothes since this, is about fashion. The clothes are quite divine in this movie. So Margot Wilson, she created Tilly's outfits with Kate Winslet's assistance. So Margaret Wilson, she's known for working on films such as The Proposition and Lawless, and I find like with Tilly's outfits, they're quite exquisite. It really highlights the curves and also too for a period piece. I quite enjoy it, and I guess in a way it's very Dior inspired. I mean, because I just had episode with Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris where that's all about Dior. So yeah, so I figure there's some bit similarities there in terms of the references, even though with this one in particular is supposed to be her own thing essentially, but still it's haute couture. And the costume designer overall for this movie is Marion Boyce. She's known for working on all the Rivers Run miniseries and the film Run Rabbit Run, which stars Snare Snook, who is in this movie. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the costumes for the movie. In a way, like they're also not bad to look at. They're quite exquisite. But I think also too, they play an important role in this movie essentially because with Tilly's clothes, they look quite expensive, something that the town is not used to seeing, and clearly like everyone in town wants to have the outfits despite their hatred for Tilly over she allegedly killed someone, but yeah, it's interesting that for Tilly's designs are very bright and colorful. Because I did mention similar note with Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, where with those leads, they're wearing a lot of bright, colorful colors, while the everyone else is wearing a lot of dull colors. And same thing here too. Like the people, the townsfolk, are wearing a lot of dull, dirty clothes essentially, while Tilly's clothes stands out. Obviously, Tilly is wearing like the red velvet-ish haute couture dress. That was like quite exquisite, and clearly she distracts the players in the game. And it's funny that like the most of the people there do not were not fans of this and all that stuff, but I found, yeah, that was a good scene. I would say it's one of my favorite scenes of the movie, of that one. And then she later changes into this black dress, which is also distracting. So yep, her clothes definitely stands out. And yeah, no surprise that everyone wants to have a piece of that essentially. And I'm glad that with Tilly, she decides not to make clothes for the drama club thingy in the movie because of the way that they treat her. Essentially, it's funny that with Gertrude, I've a note on Gertrude later, but essentially she said that, oh, we'll forgive you and all that stuff if you make the costumes for our play. And yeah, I'm not surprised that Tilly was insulted essentially afterwards and decides to make the costumes for the competition. So there's that. But good on her. And yeah, speaking of Tilly, man, like her character is quite tragic in terms of her backstory essentially, but I also felt that Kate Winslet, she did a great job with her performance in this movie. This is a bit of a change for her because this is a bit more comedic and all that stuff, but at least here with this role it gives her like the best of both worlds, where yes, she displays her dramatic acting chops, but I think also to here it gives her moments to display her comedic chops as well too, because we see that of course during her interactions with with her mother Molly. Judy Davis does a great job with that character, but I felt, yeah, they had great timing together, and essentially with all the other characters she interacts always has great moments. um, Wanted to highlight, yeah, Liam Hemsworth. It's nice to see him speak in his native Australian accent, because usually with the stuff that I've seen, particularly with the Hunger Games, he always does the American accent. So it was nice for a change. And I find, yeah, with this role for him, gives him a chance to display his like leading man qualities, his comedic chops, and also to display, you know, the that whole romance with Tilly. So I found that was great. It's too bad what happens with his character, where he dies by accident. But yeah, other than that, I thought Liam Hemsworth did a great job in this movie. Also, too, Hugo Weaving as Sergeant Ferret. He's quite the character in this movie, and also was a nice change, I guess, for Hugo Weaving, because usually the stuff that I see, he tends to play a lot of dark characters. I mean, we have the Matrix movies, for example, V for Vendetta, Slow Horses, but here he gets to show his lighter side, I would say, in this movie. And it's funny that with his character loves fashion, but can't really display the fashion because the town is quite conservative. And I thought it was funny that when he sees um, Tilly for the first time, he asked her, "Is that Dior?" I I thought that was a hilarious moment. But Ferret was quite a joy to watch on screen, and Hugo Weaving did a great job here. Also, too, Sarah Snook as Gertrude. It was nice to see her in a role that outside of Succession that she's known for. Her character is interesting because, in a way, her character kind of reminds me of Cinderella, where the character here starts off as quite shy or timid, quite nerdy with the glasses and all that stuff, and no one really paid her much attention really. But then once when Tilly gives her the makeover, so to speak, for the dance, everyone starts to notice her. Her crush William notices her, and they start dating. It's funny that like before the makeover, William essentially ignored her. It's so funny. But yeah, but once when the character essentially changes, um, yeah, she changes. I would probably say not for the better, unless if the character was already like this, because we did see the flashback where apparently she told Stuart where Tilly was and all that stuff. But yeah, her character becomes quite mean in this movie. I mean, in one way, it was good for her to stand up because like her mother in law is a piece of work essentially in this movie. But but yeah, I found Gertrude was, I would say, quite interesting in this movie. Also too, as a highlight, this movie has Western vibes. I mean, from a visual standpoint, it shows a lot of landscapes, and we do get close-ups every now and then. But I guess from like a genre standpoint, we have our main character Tilly. She is essentially the outcast. She was outcasted by the town because of what happened years ago, and then decides to come back to town, I guess for revenge, so to speak. And then she really does shakes things up with her outfits, which which is both positive thing and a negative thing, so to speak, depending on how you look at it. And then ultimately decides to burn her house down along with the other houses and leaves town to head to Paris, essentially. So yeah, I would say those are the vibes. I liked how the tease of young Tilly that she may or may not have killed Stuart, I found was quite interesting because that's treated as a mystery because Tilly does not know or doesn't remember what happened, nor do I would say the other characters. But I guess the other characters believe that she actually killed Stewart. But it turns out, yeah, like it was an accident this whole time. And also too shows like the dangers of gossiping. I mean, gossiping in general is not bad, but it can take you so far that could lead to serious consequences. And with the case of Tilly, it essentially drove her to out of town and is looked at to be this black sheep of the town, essentially. So yeah, terrible, but at least things work out for Tilly at the end. And in terms of scenes, I enjoyed one moment. Una, I think that's her name. She's like a competing fashion designer, and it's funny that Una decides to design this wedding dress for Gertrude, and that was a hideous dress that Una designed. I'm like, what was she thinking? That was it. I mean, it was hilarious, but luckily Gertrude's like, no, I'm gonna go with Tilly instead. That was hilarious to see. So that's pretty much it I had for highlights. In terms of lowlights, I just questioned the timing of Tilly heading back to town because if let's say something prompted her to come, like whether let's say she found out that her mom was very sick and had to take care of her, or let's say if this was the anniversary of Stuart's death, which was also the anniversary of her being kicked out of town, essentially, I would get the timing of it. But it seems like here she just decided to randomly show up and do what she does throughout the movie, essentially. I just wish there could have been more reason behind that. And I felt as though that um, overall, I think the direction of this movie didn't fully land for me. Now, I have not read the book, so I don't know how faithful the movie is to the book, so I can't comment on that. But I feel like the mashup of the different genres it has just did not blend together. Now I don't mind it if it has, these different genres. It just need to work together. I don't know if it fully worked for me. So the genres here in this movie, so we have comedy, so dark comedy, I guess, so to speak, and then we have like the western genre, and then we have the drama genre as the main genres. But I just feel like there could have been more blend to it that was more cohesive, I would say. Um, so a movie that came to mind, Promising Young Woman. Emerald Fennell directed that movie. She won an Oscar for that movie. It's with Carey Mulligan. Essentially, that movie is a revenge movie that doesn't really have much action to it. I would say it's more like a thriller. I felt like that movie for me worked in terms of being a revenge movie without being too gory, so to speak. And it did well in terms of the themes, the writing, and all that stuff. So I feel like that is a good example of doing like a revenge movie, so to speak, without being too action heavy. And I think that with this movie could have lend from Promising Young Woman, so to speak. So there's that. All right, let's get into trivia. So there was quite a lot of fun facts, so I'm not going to share everything. So the author of the novel, Rosalie Ham, apparently sold the film rights to the film in the mid 2000s and wrote a few screenplays, which never came to fruition. And upon seeing the book in the store and recognizing the author's name, fellow classmate and producer Sue Maslin became interested in adapting it into a movie. In 2009, Maslin bought the rights and later persuaded Jocelyn Moorhouse to direct and write the screenplay. And Jocelyn Moorhouse apparently took a lot of inspiration from Betty Davis, Grace Kelly, Marilyn Monroe, and Katharine Hepburn when envisioning Tilly. Interesting. Needing an actress who possessed the strength, vulnerability, and sensuality of the character, Moorhouse only wanted Kate Winslet, classifying her as the most beautiful form of womanhood in an actress. I mean, yeah, that's a very highly compliment, and yeah, I agree to all that stuff. Also, too, Jocelyn Moraz was initially worried that she wouldn't be able to secure Kate Winslet because the movie is is independent and all that stuff. It says because of how hesitant investors can be in financing a female-led film without a bankable star, the film would not have been able to secure funds for the movie. But luckily, Kate Winslet accepted and was willing to take a pay cut, having been already passionate about independent filmmaking. So it worked out at the end. So good on that. And lastly, Kate Winslet's accent, her Australian accent, apparently is widely considered to be the most authentic accent by a non Australian on film. Winslet worked with dialect coach Victoria Mieluiska, if I'm pronouncing that right, to perfect her sound. Quote, Kate has a very good ear and an incredible depth of soul to not just take on the sounds, but also the feeling of being Australian, and that's what marks her out as so special. That's great. So, lastly, should this movie be rediscovered? I would say yeah, sure, check it out. Why not? It's not something that I would recommend personally because it doesn't fully work for me, but there are aspects of it to enjoy. I would say in terms of fashion, it works because we get to see Tilly work on her designs, so to speak. And yeah, the comedy for me works in this movie. And yeah, I would say check it out. All right, that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So you can find me on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Linktree at Numpy Malloy. You can find the podcast on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. Visit buymeacoffee.com/RD Movies Pod to support the podcast via donation and also to look at our exclusive posts there. Join the Rediscovered Movies Hub, which is our community group on the official Wix website, which is rdmoviespod.wixsite.com/official, where you can interact with others, share thoughts on the podcast, and more. On Spotify, you can answer the feature poll, leave a comment, and rate the podcast. On Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Podchaser, you could leave a review and rate the podcast. And submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, or you could fill out the contact form in our link tree to be featured on a Q&A episode, which will air after the end of the season. So I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one.